With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Now on this show, we pretty much try to avoid political talk and stuff like that. But every once in a while, the world of politics uninvitedly butts itself into the conversation of entertainment and movies. And such was the case that happened the other day. As American President Donald Trump has announced on his social media, as he often does, because that's how a president should act, by announcing global kind of policy stuff on dumblefuck social media. But he announced on social media that they were going to be implementing as according to Variety, a 100% tariffs on films produced outside of the U.S., saying that the movie industry in the United States is dying. All right. I think as we kind of circle around and talk about this is clearly a movie industry, a movie industry and a movie topic about the movie industry. There's something before we get into any discussion that has to be acknowledged right up front. And we will jump over to the Campea classroom to discuss about it. And the very first thing that we have to acknowledge is this. We first must acknowledge that there is a problem. There is. Production in the US has gone down 40% since the Hollywood strikes ended. Think about that. So as President Trump is pointing out, hey, there's a problem over here. We all have to acknowledge that that's 100% true. There is absolutely a problem going on. And it's something that we've been talking about in the industry over the past year or two ad nauseum, about the fact that there's so less production happening in California specifically. California isn't just losing production overseas. They're losing production to Georgia. They're losing production to Louisiana. They're losing production to New York, obviously to other countries around the world as well. Canada and what we were talking about, Shogun, that shoots up in Canada, by the way. And it's gone down by 40%. And people need to come up with answers about how do we address this? How do we fix this? And the president here is not wrong in pointing out that this is an issue and this is a problem. The thing is, in addressing the question about studios and everything producing movies and shooting movies or doing post-production on movies outside of the country, how do we bring that production back to our local shores? Well, here's the thing. There are going to be two competing different philosophies. Go back over to the thing here. There are two opposing philosophies that you're going to have to approach when talking about the issue about how do we solve this issue, right? There's a problem. How do we solve it? And there's one of two philosophies you need to address or you need to adopt. One, we call the carrot. That they need to leverage American resourcefulness and ingenuity to entice production back to the US, showing that we can compete and succeed and offer better opportunities and better environments for film production here than elsewhere. In other words, incentives, right? The one philosophy you can adopt into how do we bring everything back is to say, hey, this is a global marketplace now, and we're better than everybody else. We can compete. And we can make it attractive and we can make it better for the film industry. How? We need to figure it out. We need to discuss. But we should adopt the philosophy of the carrot. Let's entice them, make production want to come back and shoot in California, in New York, in the United States. That's the one philosophy you can adopt. However, the US government seems to be wanting to adopt the second alternative for how to get production back. And that second philosophy is what we call the stick. Let's punish those who produce outside of the US with financial penalties so extreme it will choke off creative options and create an environment so financially restrictive that it strips any options away from the producers. In other words, tariffs. So you have one of two approaches you can take to the problem, because we all acknowledge there's a problem. Production 40% down just since the strikes ended. What philosophy do we want to employ? Do we want to entice production and make it better for production to take place here? Or do we want to try to be more heavy-handed and punish people who shoot movies outside of the US and make that the incentive? Or a mixture of the two. But those are the two philosophies that you got to try to decide to come to. Now, before we talk about everything being the mess, we got to say this. Proper leadership moves mean that when you announce a change, you announce a change and everything that it means. That's a proper leadership move. I want to give you an example. Remember back in February, and this is in Variety, AMC, now I don't think AMC has very good leadership, but they made a really good leadership move. Remember AMC announced back in February that they were going to be raising the prices of A-List. But what AMC did not do was just throw out on some tweet saying, we're raising prices in A-List. See ya, everybody. And leave everybody to wonder, what does that mean? Is A-List going up to $50 a month? Am I going to lose out in the amount of movies I get to go see? Am I not going to be able to use A-List? What does it mean that you're raising prices? No. When AMC announced that they were, and you'll see how this all connects in a second, but when AMC announced that they were raising prices on A-List, they laid out all the information. It said, number one, if you live in New York and California, your price is going up $3 from $24.99 to $27.99. If you live anywhere else in the US, your price is going up to this and this only. And it means that you're, instead of just seeing one movie or 3 movies per week, you're now going to be able to see 4 movies per week. For the extra $3, if you live in California and New York, instead of seeing 12 movies a month, you're going to get to now see 16 movies a month. 4 more movies a month for $3 more. The point is, if you're competent leadership, then when you come out and make an announcement like this, you give the details. You let people know what is they can expect and what is coming. The absence of information leads to chaos and confusion. And instead of coming out and saying, hey, we're looking at doing tariffs on movies, what does that look like? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So it leaves us to ask the question of who is getting tariffed? Who's getting tariffed? Who's going to be the target of this 100% tariff? Because they didn't explain who. And there's several options of who it could be. A, it could be foreign films like RRR, Godzilla -1, Parasite, The Grudge, Ju-on, like whatever else. You mentioned Amelie a little bit earlier. Amelie. Does this mean that we're not going to get to have some of these great global cinematic experiences here because we're going to make it cost prohibitive? Is that who you're talking about? Or B, are we talking about Hollywood? Back over to the classroom. Are we talking about Hollywood films shot entirely overseas? Like maybe they're not talking about foreign produced films, but Hollywood films that have the audacity to shoot in other locations. Movies like Harry Potter aren't shot in America. James Bond films, for the most part, are not shot in America. Is that who they're talking about? We don't know because they decided not to tell us. Or are we talking about C, Hollywood films shot partially overseas? The Odyssey is shooting some stuff in the United States, but they're also shooting internationally. Mission Impossible films, Avengers films, on and on and on. Are we talking, when you say you're putting 100% tariff on movies that don't shoot in the US, are you talking about even films that shoot part of their movie overseas? They didn't bother saying. Or does it get even more extreme? Are you talking about Hollywood films that shoot here, but do some of their post-production overseas? Because a lot of films you'll watch maybe are shot in Georgia, made in Georgia, or shot in New York, or shot in California, but then they use visual effects houses, post-production houses. That can be in India. They can be around the world. Are those films going to get hit with 100% tariff? We don't know because they didn't bother saying anything. They just recklessly and stupidly jumped on some dumblefuck social media thing and said, we're putting 100% tariff on movies. Again, in the AMC situation, and they don't even have good leadership at AMC, when they announced a price raise, said, here's everything that it means. We're going to raise the price this exact amount. It will impact people here this way. It will impact people over here this way. And this is what else you're going to get as a benefit. This is the totality of what it means. So when they make an announcement, they give clarity. In this situation, all it was a big thing. We're going to put 100% tariff on movies that are shot outside the US. What does that mean? You don't need to know, because you know why? Because they don't even know. Well, that then brings up another question. Not just who's going to get tariffed, but how much is going to get tariffed, and on what principle? When you say you're going to tariff a movie 100%, are you saying the production budget of the movie is what's going to get tariffed? So if a movie cost $100 million to make, are you going to charge $100 million tariff? I don't know, because they didn't bother telling us. Or are you going to take a slightly different approach to it? And are you going to say the box office is what gets tariffed? So if a movie makes $125 million at the box office, you're going to apply a $25 million tariff? Is that what you mean? Or, just like we were asking, what happens if a movie only partially shoots outside of the US? Are you going to just tariff a portion of a movie that shot outside? So if you're going to say, hey, this movie, 25% of it was made outside of the US, therefore we're going to apply that 100% tariff on that 25%. And then 25% of what? The budget? 25% of the box office? We don't know. So as you can imagine, in the movie industry, starting last night, a lot of reports have come in about how there is a really panicked frenzy going on right now. We got film producers, and I won't bring up all the quotes from Variety, film producers saying this is simply going to kill independent film. It's dead. Independent film's dead. Others saying does this even apply to movies that are currently in production? Or does it only apply to movies that are going to be in production? And speaking of Amelie, does it apply to films that have already been made? Am I going to have to pay $50 to rent and download and stream Amelie now because you're applying 100% tariff on it? Don't know. Because they didn't have the foresight or the basic fucking intelligence to tell people remotely what it means. He just walked into a room, farted, and walked out.
Yeah.
So now,
That's
here's
pretty
what...
accurate.
Well, that's what happened. Now, here's the thing that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, which is what are the potential negative ramifications of this whole thing? Number one, and this is a very real potential ramification, other countries impose, as they have in everything else, retaliatory tariffs. Do you think other countries are just going to let American films shot in America come into their country tariff-free if you're going to charge if movies are shot in their country? And just to let you know how big of a deal that is, Bad Boys for Life, I'm just pulling out some random examples here. Bad Boys for Life, of the $404 million that movie made, $210 million of it came from overseas. Oppenheimer nearly made $1 billion. Guess what? $645 million of those dollars came from overseas. John Wick 4 made $440 million. More than half of it, $253 million of it, was made from overseas. What do you think is going to happen to the North American film market if all of a sudden other territories, like in every other industry they've started doing it, start imposing retaliatory things? Countries like China, like India, like France, they're all been trying to push like more isolationist cinema anyway. They're just going to abandon the American film market at some point. Again, that's not necessarily what exactly will happen, but that's the potential of something like that happening. Retaliatory tariffs could be crippling to the movie industry. Another potential downside of this is Hollywood will reduce production. Listen, if without incentives and without a carrot and without partnership to say, hey, let's make a better environment for shooting here in the US, And instead opting for a stick, saying we're going to punish you if you don't, we're talking about a film industry now facing much higher costs to make their films. And if they have to raise their costs, guess what's going to happen? They're going to make less. And if the end game in all of this, because we all acknowledge, we all agree, all of us agree that there is a problem, 40% drop in production in the US, all that kind of stuff. But if the whole motive here is to try to get more production back into the US, this is shooting yourself in the foot, because your solution is just creating a new problem in which the studios are going to say, we don't have as much money now to produce everything that we want to produce. Guess what? You think Sinners gets made? Sinners doesn't get made. Doesn't get made at all. Because they're going to have to reduce the amount of stuff that they're going to make. And to bring it a little more close to home, another ramification of all this is that cost for the consumer is going to go up. All industries, not just the entertainment industry, sneakers, home construction, cars, shoes, whatever. When their costs go up, inevitably that cost is passed on to you and me. All industries pass expenses on to the consumers. If Netflix needs to suddenly pay a lot more money for its foreign content, because the whole backbone of Netflix right now is its foreign content library. If Netflix needs to start paying more for its foreign content, they will charge you more for the service. If it costs studios more to make their movies, they will pass that expense onto the movie theaters, and then the movie theaters in turn will need to pass that expense onto you and me with even more increased ticket prices. Look, we all agree that there is a problem. But when a teacher talks to his parents and says, we've got a problem, little Billy is kind of falling asleep during class, the parents don't say, gotcha, we will shoot little Billy in the head as soon as we get home. No. Not saying that, but you said there's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem, but that's not the solution. And here's the other big thing. Too many people try to come up with answers and don't come up with solutions. An answer you can just come up with. Solutions are well thought out, systematic, strategically planned out to address real problems and any ramifications that come as a result thereof. Coming out of nowhere, and I don't care if it's a Republican president, a Democratic president, a Canadian prime minister, it doesn't matter. To just come out and fart in the room and say 100% tariffs on movies with no explanation, no guidelines, no details, no plan, no strategy, no concept of what's going on, all that does is create chaos and confusion. And so, look, am I saying that the approach has to strictly be carrot? Not necessarily. Maybe there does need to be a little bit of stick in there too. But this whole thing is just a garbage mess. And again, like a lot of things that happen in our world today, just kind of shit out on the ground, not really planning about who's going to clean it up. Anyway, guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Hungryroot. Okay, so I'm sure you guys can all relate to this. Spring hits and suddenly life goes from like 0 to 100. Busy season is officially in full swing over here. And honestly, who's got time to go grocery shopping? That's where Hungryroot comes in. See, because Hungryroot is like having your own personal shopper. I told them my goals and they started curating groceries for me that actually fit my life. Be it smoothies, snacks, salad kits, even ready to eat meals. All clean ingredients, no artificial junk. This week, I got the grilled turkey tenderloin with pesto grilled veggies, and it was amazing. And I got my usual protein-packed snacks. It's like they're learning my taste better than I even know myself. And the best part is, I don't have to waste time driving to the grocery store and wandering the aisles. That's time I can spend doing literally absolutely anything else. Guys, I love Hungryroot. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Campea and use the code Campea. That's hungryroot.com/Campea, code Campea to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Campea, code Campea. Chris, you heard the announcement come out that 100% tariffs on movies.
Yes.
I have no idea what that means.
No.
But what's your first reaction to that when you hear about it?
Oh, that it's dumb. But also, we need to keep in mind that this is not finalized, too. This is all something that has been thrown out, like so many things, of spaghetti at the wall of, what do you guys think about this? And supposedly this comes from the brain of John Voight, who is supposed to be helping make Hollywood great again, or whatever they're doing. I don't think this is a good idea, mostly because of what you've just talked about. What does that even mean? Marvel just moved almost all of its servers to London, right? They are making movies in London. They are not making movies here. All right, I have this on very, very good authority from the people who installed these things. So are we going to just put all these tariffs on our own Marvel movies too, on our own films that we're making from American production companies that are going overseas and doing things? Is it just post-production? Is it if you're entirely producing something overseas? Is it like Tango Shalom, where you are not going to be able to make this movie that the Pope himself loved because it's impossible to make something like that? Now, I do want to just say too, going back to the carrot idea of all of this, there needs to be incentives for people to make films. And that's something that I'm just wanting to try to talk about this in the most positive way I can, because that's the stuff I know more about than how to solve things politically or do that kind of thing. I know the Stay in LA campaign is working really, really hard to try to yes and the incentives that people are proposing here in California. So I'm just going to read a little bit of data. According to California Productions Coalition, the average location shoot adds $670,000 and 115 jobs a day to our local economy here. All right. So each dollar spent on incentivizing production to stay in California creates 24.4 in new economic activity across all local businesses, $8.6 in wages increasing in labor income, and $16.4 increases in your general dollar spent. So that's little numbers spread over 1,500 people, 2,000 people, 3,000 people, who all then spend their hard-earned American money back here in the States. When you are continually taking your labor forces and sweeping them at the knee, right? You are crushing your own economy. California is not a state filled with like the Hollywood elite, as people would like to say. Most of these kinds of tariffs are going to affect the three of us tremendously back here who work in production, who are journeyman actors or work on union productions or doing VFX and behind the scenes people. Taking away movies and movie production and making penalties for working on these kinds of things, whether it be overseas, whether it is doing things with studios across the pond, that sort of thing, only hurts this industry further. It's just continuing the cycle of having the Hollywood industry absolutely cannibalize itself until we're only going to be making very specific types of films that are going to be very specifically greenlit by very specific types of people. I don't want my art to have that kind of thing. The exciting thing about art is that you are hearing from all kinds of different voices. You are learning about all different kinds of cultures and people and everything. And you, the consumer, can always choose whether or not you consume that media. But you should absolutely have the ability to ingest it. And if we do this, we are absolutely going to eradicate indie filmmaking. We are absolutely going to minimize the amount of foreign films that people have access to. And that makes for generally a less educated, less kind world. And I know kind is something that people are going to cling to if that sounds naive or silly, but you don't understand the human experience without fully understanding the human experience of all. And that's what this kind of thing is ultimately going to do, is ruin people's ability to learn about other walks of life if we aren't making films with all kinds of people. It's really frustrating.
Rob, you saw the stories and you read the details in it.
Yes.
In there. What's your reaction to this?
Well, first of all, movies are one of our great exports. We do not have a trade deficit when it comes to our entertainment. As a matter of fact, we're making a lot more money exporting our entertainment than we have coming back.
3 times as much.
So that's something, first of all, our industry in the United States is doing very, very well. And the whole thing about tariffs is you're supposed to create more parity in terms with other countries. We're already winning that war. So to put tariffs on our motion pictures is a strange thing. I understand that we're all Democrats that are making movies and we're all those leftist elites. So there's a political issue there too. But I would say this, the reason that, say, production is going away from Los Angeles, which is a huge problem, is because Los Angeles and California have taken movie making for granted for decades. And everyone in LA, as somebody who's made movies in both Los Angeles and in foreign countries, I produced a movie in Bulgaria, everybody in LA has their hand out. It is incredibly expensive to shoot films in Los Angeles. Everything from permitting to how many cops you have to have on the streets. Everybody has got their hand out, and no one is subsidizing productions. And if you do want to get a subsidized production, it's the studios that get those subsidies anyway. There's nobody out there trying to foster independent filmmaking to make it or incentivize it for young upcoming filmmakers with a couple of $1 million to make a movie. When I started in this business, New Line was shooting films for $3 million here in Los Angeles. You cannot do that anymore. We have priced ourselves out of competitiveness, and the way to bring it back is through tax credits, is through making sure that there's not so much red tape, making production affordable here in Los Angeles. I mean, people are talking about LA being Detroit, which is very true because like Chris pointed out, it's every other business is impacted. People aren't going to their therapists anymore because they're not working in LA, so the therapists aren't making money. The dry cleaners aren't making money. Restaurants aren't making any money. The tax base is not making as much money overall. I mean, it has a ripple effect across the entire economy. What we need to do, especially in bigger production hubs, is to make it much more attractive and affordable to make movies here in the country. And I agree with that impulse, but it's going to happen locally, not around the world. Because Mission Impossible is a great film export from an American company, Skydance. It's financed, by the way, movies are financed from money all around the world too. But it's still an American product that's being made here, and ultimately it's going to benefit America. Are you going to tell me that we can't make a Mission Impossible that's shot all over the world now? Who's going to go see that then? If it's all a volume stage, and if it's all, or are we going to go back to the 40s where everything's built on a set? If you want to make a Parisian romance, can you not go to Paris anymore? And that movie could be a huge export from America and make a ton of cash. And this is what I think, like John pointed out, the haphazard nature of all this is what makes people doubt leadership and doubt the methodology and lose trust in the very people that are making these big proclamations from up on high. And it's not really addressing the issues that we need to address. One thing about what President Trump did say, he did talk about Gavin Newsom. I mean, he was attacking Gavin Newsom, but the idea is we need much more direct and involved leadership here in this state that makes it much more attractive to make movies here. And we need it across the board, and we need it now. Where's that? Why isn't there a federal incentive to make movies in the United States across all states? Because everywhere you make movies, people benefit because the local economies are impacted.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's like you're saying, it's not just California. We're talking Georgia, Louisiana, New Mexico, New York State. It's everywhere. There has to be, I think, a federal component to this. Like, here's an interesting thing too. One of Professor Dumblefuck's main buddies, one of his Hollywood ambassadors, Mel Gibson. He's got a movie he's got shooting here pretty soon. His Passion of the Christ 2. Supposed to be shooting in Italy. Is
It's
that
not called that, right?
Oh, Passion.
Sorry. I was like, wait, Passion of the Christ 2? What? They're making a
I can't
sequel?
remember but yeah, they're making a
Maybe
sequel.
it's
Yes.
maybe it's the resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to double check the title. Where I was like,
I don't
Electric
think the actual
Boogaloo?
title
What?
is
called
Passion of the
Passion to
Christ
Christ.
2,
Passion to Christ,
but it is
okay.
a sequel to Passion to Christ.
Okay.
Yes, is
Yeah.
happening.
Okay.
And he's going to be shooting it in Italy. He going to have to pay a tariff?
Yeah.
I mean, again, the whole thing, I think the main economic thing, Chris brought this up, like when you can show objectively, statistically, that every $1 you spend in creating incentives to have production done here at home, you generate 20-something dollars into the local economy. That's the type of argument that needs to be made. And again, I think it is an insult to American ingenuity. It is an insult to American enterprise to say, we can't actually compete with the rest of the world. We can't compete. We're not good enough. So we'll just punish anybody who goes somewhere better. Instead of making the situation better at home, we're just going to punish people because we can't compete. I think that's ludicrous. I think that's insulting. And I think it's just wrong.
But we are the best in the world at making movies. And
So act like it.
people love our product.
Yes, they do.
And you've got new studio facilities being built in Vegas. You know, there's all kinds of production. You know, why doesn't somebody subsidize the VFX community? We have all bring
Yeah.
back our VFX workers and make them here in America. There's so many things going on. It's not, look, we're not going to bring back factory production to the United States that isn't going to be mechanized and automatic, totally automated anyway. We're not going to bring, you can't bring back a 100-year-old industry and make it work again. But the Hollywood entertainment business works just fine, and it's still one of America's great exports. So why not incentivize it across all 50 states if you want? I mean,
You're not going to get that though.
But it's going to take a coordinated.
You'll get state by state, but you're not going to
Yeah.
get.
But again, I think it's going to take state. I think it's going to take federal to a degree. That's going to be tough in the era of
It's too
Dodge. when they're-
transactional.
Yeah,
like
when
I won't get into it, but it's too transactional. So.
Yes, but again,
Yes.
I still believe that the answer is more incentive than it is punishment.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, we just need to know more about what this actually means.
Yeah.
Is it
it's-
just on the films we're seeing? Is it on the film production? Is there some kind of split in how things are made? Because right now it's this all-encompassing, oh my God, what does this mean? Do I not get to see these types of movies or work in part with these types of movies, or what's happening?
I mean, President
It's
Trump did bring
frustrating.
up that it was a national security issue.
I know, which is kind of what authoritarians say when they try to want to
yeah, or you
do
can
what they
only-
want to
so
do.
is Signal. All right, so
Are we only going to have to, I mean, can I not watch French films anymore? Or can I not watch movies from Russia or China or the
Korea,
NATO
or-
nations? I mean, it's just, it's a silly thing because Criterion, a great American company, sells foreign films on disc that I want to buy.
yeah.
I'm giving my money to an American company that's distributing foreign films in the U.S. in addition to distributing American films in the U.S. What does that mean? The problem is, it's there's nobody in Washington right now that really understands production. Actually, there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that don't understand production either, that are also making decisions about how to produce things.
Keep watching
So,
the studio.
There you go.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? There has been, first of all, the one thing that everybody on either side, whatever, we all agree, there is a massive problem. Like production in the U.S. down 40% since the end of the strikes has to be addressed. 100%, we all agree on that. What do you think about the approach of the stick versus the carrot, or the mixture of the two? What do you think about the idea of 100% tariffs? On what? Not sure. How much? Not sure. Which portion of it? Don't know. But how are you feeling about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.